On May 8th, 18 teams all across the North American continent started out their baseball season with one goal in mind: postseason glory. 864 games, thousands upon thousands of miles of travel later, and the brackets are set. Who will come out on top? Only time will tell. These are the 2025 Frontier League playoffs.
He offers up, and this ball is hit pretty well. High and deep to right center. Booker going back and right.
Fastball swing and a miss. He struck him out.
The AD drilled in the air, deep left field. Back on it, Masterman looking up. Hello, bleachers. Bye-bye, baseball.
The throw over the head and to left. Base hit. Walk it off. Miners win. Tom Johnson. Down throw. And finally, the first time all year.
Welcome into the 2025 Frontier League Playoff Preview Show. I'm Frontier League Deputy Commissioner Matt Shepardson, and we'll have some friends from around the league join us as we go on this evening. Our regular season has concluded and the postseason stage is set. We have 4 teams from each of our conferences who are ready to advance, including division winners and the 2 highest wild cards per conference. In the Atlantic Conference, the Quebec Capitale dominated once again, finishing atop the standings and aiming for a 4th consecutive Frontier League title, continuing an era of unprecedented success, and they wrapped up with a record of 67-29. New York Boulders, who clinched the final playoff berth on Saturday on their way to a 52-win campaign, will face Quebec at Clover Stadium on Wednesday night. The Sussex County Miners top the East Division with a 53-43 record, and they're ready to face off against the Tri-City Valley Cats, who came in second behind Quebec in the North Division, wrapping their season at 62-34. Over in the Midwest Conference, the top seed was claimed by West Division champions, the Schaumburg Boomers, who end up with a record of 58-38. Schaumburg will head to Lake Erie, with the Crushers wrapping up their 52-win campaign in Joliet on Sunday night. The Washington Wild Things claimed the Central Division crown, backed by another powerful campaign, and look to book another trip to the finals. They head to Sauget, Illinois to face the 56-40 Gateway Grizzlies. Over the next few minutes, we're going to break down some key matchups. We'll talk about each team's season, their maybe how they'll do in their postseason, and we'll look for some hot players to watch. We're going to talk with some friends of ours who we're going to invite in right now. First of all, from our Atlantic Conference and the Ottawa Titans, the 2024 Robert Ford Broadcaster of the Year, we have Davide Disipio, and another former Robert Ford Broadcaster of the Year, the voice of the Windy City Thunderbolts, Terry Bonadonna. Davide, Quebec and New York, you're familiar with both of them. They face off 7 p.m. on Wednesday night. Tell us a little bit about what you have seen from them over the course of the season.
Yeah, certainly New York has been playing for their playoff lives the last couple of weeks, and they ended up sneaking into that last spot back the other day on Saturday night with the help by a sweep against Sussex County, and they've been really playing with house money. They got a deep lineup. They're really solid pitching-wise on both sides of the ball, whether they're starters or the relievers. They really revamped their pitching staff from last year when they just missed out on the playoffs to this year, and then obviously Quebec, for a team that lost 2 of their best starting pitchers from last season's championship. They really rebuilt their starting rotation and rebuilt their bullpen, and they're really the team to beat. And I'm always the guy that likes to say you can't be the champs unless you beat the champs. So they're certainly on top until somebody finally knocks them off.
We've seen a lot of maybe different chapters of Boulders baseball this season. And of course, Quebec started off so strong this season and had to find their footing again later as the season wrapped up. But I look at New York right now, and I think if Tyler Vale gets the ball late in the game, that's going to be a tough one for Quebec, who's known for their late magic. What do you think about how these two teams match up, especially with the way each one of their strengths line up?
Yeah, certainly. I think it's pretty much can be called an even matchup, really, if you kind of classify position by position, side by side. I think if you look on from a lineups perspective, 2 certainly really deep lineups, and when you got Kyle Crowell and Ruben Castro and Yasmil Valentin and a bunch of guys that have been there and done that in this league on the Quebec side of the ball, and then you got the New York Boulders that Really, one of the only guys left from their playoff team in 2022 was Austin Dennis, and he's the heartbeat of that team. Came a couple of hits shy of a Frontier League record this past season, and he was really the guy that got that system going. If Austin Dennis wasn't going, the rest of the New York Boulders weren't really going. And then Austin got hot towards the end of the year, and that's why they're in the final playoff spot. And then I think they're the three-headed monster that New York has on their starting rotation with Blaine Traxel, Mitchell Sanger, who they just got back from the Atlantic League, and Garrett Cooper, who had himself a really good season. And then if those guys are able to carry it deep into the game with New York's reshaped bullpen, such as their dominant left-handers and Ethan Bradford and Kobe Reeves, who are really dominant for TJ Stan's team. And if they get the ball to Tyler Vale, it's a team to look out for.
The New York Boulders in Clover Stadium will play host to Manager of the Year Patrick Scalabrini and his Quebec Capitals squad starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Wednesday night. Things move to Stade Canac in Quebec for a 7:05 start on Friday and, if necessary, for Game 3 Saturday night, also at 7:05 at Stade Canac.
We also have Sussex County and the Miners, who topped their division, going on to take on Tri-City, who may have had, other than your Ottawa Titans, one of the hotter second halves of the season. Let's talk a little bit about what to expect to see in Troy, New York on Wednesday night.
Yeah, certainly. Tri-City is going into the postseason, winners of 7 of their last 8. I mean, we just had a really good series against them in Ottawa to wrap up the regular season, and they're definitely a team to be reckoned with as well. And I think they're a sneaky pick to win the championship this year. The team, Greg Taggart, that loves to build his team with 10 pitchers and 14 position players, and he can stack up his lineups with all of his left-handed hitters against the righty and all of his right-handed hitters against the lefty. So they can beat you in so many different ways. They got 3 guys in their starting rotation with over 100 innings this year. They'll wear you down. They can beat you in so many different ways with the singles and the extra base hits, the power in the middle of their order. They can run, they can defend, and they can definitely pitch it as well. And then a Sussex County team that was similar to Quebec. They got off to a really hot start. Quebec got off to a 30-5 start. Sussex County got off to a 36-10 start. It was a tremendous start for Sussex as well, but I think they've really fallen off the last couple of months. And I mean, in Ottawa, we hadn't seen them since late July, and they're going into the break or going into the playoffs rather, being swept by their division rivals in New York. And if New York ended up playing a 96-game season, that could be contention for who would have won the division. But obviously, with New York playing 95 games, Sussex County ended up claiming the division title. And they're a team that did not have a very good 2024. They had probably a MVP frontrunner at the start of the season in Mekhi Backstrom and Gabriel Maciel, who unfortunately went down due to injury. They lost their closer and Matt Still to the Tigers organization late in the season. So they're kind of revamping their ball club as well. And I think the early start to the Sussex County season helped them get to this spot now.
I didn't get a chance to see the Tri-City Valley Cats in person this year, and I feel like the people I've talked to around the league, we don't really talk about the Valley Cats very much because they're so overshadowed by Quebec. They won over 60 games this year. I would love to know a little bit more about what makes that team as good as they are, and are they I know I'm looking ahead a little bit, but I mean, are they a legitimate contender for the best team in this league?
Yeah, I honestly think that they're probably my dark horse pick to win this title this year. It's just they can beat you in so many different ways. They play in a hitters friendly ballpark. So Greg Taggart, after he took the managerial post last season, he inherited some really good players. Oscar Campos, who was an all-star the last couple of years, he's got the perfect fit for that stadium. They got Chris Burgess back in a trade from Trois Rivières to lead their backstoppers. He had over 310 this year. He had a fantastic season. And then I think it's kind of obviously Greg Taggart has developed a lot of great coaches. Jamie Bennett, one of them in Schaumburg. They're built the exact same way, pretty much, as how the Schaumburg Boomers are built. And obviously Schaumburg won the West Division title. So, I mean, they can run. They can defend, and I think pitching, defense, and the 3-run homer are a big difference in this playoff series, and I think Tri-City could present that opportunity at any given time.
Playoff action kicks off in the Frontier League at Joseph L. Bruno Stadium as the Tri-City Valley Cats host the Sussex County Miners Wednesday, September 3rd, 6:30 p.m. On Friday, the series moves to Skyland Stadium, and Sussex hosts Tri-City starting at 7:05. And Game 3, if necessary, will be Saturday at 6:35 p.m., still at Sussex County.
Well, joining us right now is the most valuable player of the Frontier League, the winner of the 2025 Morgan Burkhardt Award, Schaumburg Boomers, Anthony Calarco. Anthony, thanks so much for joining us for a few minutes today in the midst of your busy week as you get ready to head to Lake Erie. Can you just tell me for a moment what this season meant to you?
Yeah, thank you for having me. This season's been incredible. You know, just coming into spring training, the vibes were really good. We were excited about the squad we had assembled in Schaumburg. We're a really tight-knit group of guys, and we have a really awesome culture there, obviously spearheaded by Jamie Bennett, as well as all of our other coaches on our staff. And, you know, this year's been awesome. It's been an accumulation of a lot of hard work and a lot of tinkering with my mechanics hitting. I've had a lot of help to get to that point with where I found my swing to be really comfortable and really repeatable. And the season was just going out and trying to be at my best every day. So, and then you look up at the end of the year and you put some pretty good numbers up and good things will follow.
Well, for those who didn't get to watch a lot of Schaumburg Boomers baseball, Anthony, you set the team's all-time runs batted in record prior to the All-Star break. And it was a pretty fantastic streak of games that you had where it seemed like just about any time anybody was on base, you came up to bat and you found a way to drive them in. Among those just amazing performances, the highest scoring game in the history of our league, you guys playing Florence, you hit 2 home runs in that game and just looked like you were on absolute autopilot. You know, there were different times that I'd come and watch you and you seemed so locked in. Did something feel different at the plate for you this season, or did maybe just the timing work out? What were your feelings about how 2025 stacked up compared to previous years in your career?
Yeah, I've worked with some really good hitting coaches, and we kind of just found some stuff that worked for me specifically. Shout out to Charlie Tillison, Matt Swope, a lot of guys, Jim Aducey, a lot of guys I've worked with, my dad, even my brother too. He's really smart with hitting, and we kind of just got the mechanics to the point where it was just really balanced and really powerful. And you know, just being with the guys on the team, like a guy I love hitting with is Christian Fedko, and we just be in the dugout every day. And we're just like, we're seeing beach balls, like the ball looks like a balloon out there, and we just kept like that positive talk. We just kept just telling ourselves over and over how well we're seeing it, and you know, it just kind of snowballs.
Anthony, I know you mentioned your dad, you mentioned your brother. One of my absolute favorite things of this year was getting to know your mom around the ballpark at Wintrust Field, listening for the cowbell, going and finding where she was. What was it like to be able to play in front of your family in your hometown this season?
It's been so cool. They're obviously huge supporters of us, and you know, I wouldn't be here without them. Playing so close to home is awesome because I have a lot of family in the area. They're able to come to the games and they're so supportive and they have a lot of fun at the games. And then when we threw my brother in the mix, we got him on the team. It just it doubled. Like it was a lot of fun. The family really enjoyed coming out to watch, and it's been a great year.
Anthony, you had a pretty amazing stat line this season. You ended up hitting 347 on the year. You played 96 games, which just amazing. But the one that's going to stick out in our league history is the 116 runs batted in. When you look at your stat line and you go all the way across, I mean, 34 doubles, man. That's quite a season for a big guy like you. What is the one stat that stands out? And what's the one that you say, I still got more, I can do even better than I did this season?
Obviously the RBIs is the one, but that's a team stat. You know, I had some really, really good hitters hitting in front of me this year. So when I just felt like I was hitting with runners on base all the time, and they gave me a lot of opportunities, and I was able to succeed in a good amount of them. But I think obviously I like hitting homers, but the double stat really stands out to me for sure. Doubles they're a really good thing for your offense because, people can say like home runs are rally killers. Doubles kind of just keep the line moving, and it provides some power, obviously. So I like hitting doubles a lot for sure. But the one that I can improve on, my goal would be I want to walk more than I strike out. Might have struck out maybe a little bit too much this year.
Anthony, you got the big series against Lake Erie coming up, and I've been talking a lot about how scary that pitching staff is, but you guys had a lot of success against the Crushers pitchers during the regular season. How do you think that you match up in that series?
I feel really good about it. We've played well against them this year, but they're obviously a very scary team because they do have some really good arms, and they can swing it a little bit too. We just got to stay within ourselves, and when we stay in the strike zone, we're really deep, dangerous offense, and we're going to put up runs. And I feel really good about the additions of guys that we've made prior to the deadline, and as far as the pitching staff goes, and I feel really good about it going into the series.
One thing for me is, unfortunately, I didn't get to watch your team play this year, but one of my favorite pitchers that I've always seen in my 5 years in the league has been Cole Cook. And how much confidence does he give you guys at the front end of your rotation to go and win a game, especially in a short series?
Yeah, you got to come out hot in a 3-game series. You can't wait around at all. So, when you have Cook coming out throwing, it puts a lot of confidence in us that we don't necessarily have to go out and score 10 runs to win. We can just take what they give us and just chip away. But Cole's an absolute dog. He just pounds his zone. He doesn't care if he gets hit. He'll come right back at you. And he's just a really good competitor, and I love watching him pitch.
Best of luck in the playoffs. We look forward to seeing what success you have in the rest of your career. And if you want to say anything to your mom, this is your chance. I'm going to give you the floor.
All right. Hi, Mom. Love you.
Everybody, that's this year's 2025 Morgan Burkhart Most Valuable Player in the Frontier League, Anthony Calarco of the Schaumburg Boomers. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Well, over in our Midwest Conference, the top seed this year was taken by division champion Schaumburg from the West, who heads to the Cleveland area to take on the Lake Erie Crushers. Terry Bonadonna, you have seen both of those teams a lot in the course of this season and past seasons. What are your insights into what we may see coming into this next series?
One of the things I've been talking about all year is just how there hasn't seemed to be a dominant team in the Midwest Conference, especially among those top 4. Anybody can beat anybody on any given day. So I think we're going to have 2 great series, but in particular, I have thought for a long time I wouldn't want to play Lake Erie in the first round. I know they've got a few holes on the roster, but their starting rotation is as good as any in the league. You can make a very strong argument that between Dylan Spain and Jack Eisenbarger and Anthony Escobar, they've got 3 of the top 5 pitchers in the league, if not 3 of the top 4 starting pitchers in the league. And so to have to face them in a short series is pretty intimidating. And the knock on Lake Erie the last couple of years has been their offense. They don't have the firepower that Schaumburg has. There's no question about that. But they're a little bit stronger offensively than they were a season ago when they were able to beat Gateway pretty dramatically in that wild card game. They've got some bats in the lineup that are, I don't know if I would call them scary, but they get on base. Dario Gomez, Sam Franco. They've got a 2-headed monster behind the plate, 2 catchers who can both hit. And Scout Knotts has been their power bat. I put that in quotation marks because they really have not hit for a lot of power. Knotts has been struggling a little bit lately, but they don't have an Anthony Calarco like Schaumburg has. They don't have that guy that you want to see up at the plate with 2 outs in the 9th inning with the game on the line. But it's not basketball. You don't always get to pick who takes the final shot anyway. So they've got 9 guys up and down that lineup who can hit and who can drive in runs if the situation calls for it. Schaumburg is absolutely loaded offensively, and they probably have the best matchup of anybody against Lake Erie. when I talk about that three-headed monster in the starting rotation for the Crushers, yeah, that scares anybody. But Schaumburg hit all of those guys. The Boomers, I think, averaged 7 or 8 runs a game this year against Lake Erie, which sounds impressive, but they averaged 7 or 8 runs against the rest of the league as well. So I mean, that's just how good the Boomers' offense is. I think Anthony Calarco speaks for himself, but there's not a single weak spot in that lineup. I think if you could say that Schaumburg has had a weak spot this year, it would be the bullpen. They made some big moves that I'm very familiar with. They got a couple of pitchers from the Thunderbolts at the transaction deadline. Caleb Rydell is a guy that I don't know how well known he is around the league because he's not a closer. He's been kind of a jack of all trades. He's a long man on certain days. He's a specialist on certain days. He does close out games sometimes. But, you know, I was a little surprised, actually, as a guy who saw him pitch all year. When I was looking at the numbers last week, evaluating who is the top player at every position, I realized that in my mind, Caleb Rydell wasn't just the best relief pitcher in the Frontier League this year. He was the best relief pitcher by a pretty wide margin in the entire Frontier League this year. So that's a huge addition to the Schaumburg rotation, or the Schaumburg bullpen. And they made an addition to the rotation as well, getting Buddy Pindell. They haven't had a lot of depth in that rotation, but with Cole Cook and Buddy Pindell at the top, you know, those two guys, their numbers are not as good as they were last year or for Cole Cook a couple of years ago when he won the Pitcher of the Year award. But that's two pretty intimidating names at the top of the rotation.
The Lake Erie Crushers play host to the Schaumburg Boomers at 6:35 p.m. on Wednesday. The series moves to Wintrust Field in Schaumburg, Illinois for a 6:30 p.m. start on Friday and also, if necessary, Saturday night. Washington, the Wild Things, Washington, Pennsylvania, wrapped up their division championship on Sunday night because of everything that happened with Lake Erie and with Washington. They head to Sauget, Illinois in the shadow of the Gateway Arch and will play the Gateway Grizzlies. Gateway, of course, in the same division as you, Terry, so you've seen them a bunch, and Washington you've matched up with as well this year. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and full disclosure, I did not see the best of the Washington Wild Things. The Thunderbolts, for whatever reason, actually matched up really well with both of these teams. They went 6-6 this year against Gateway and 5-4 against the Wild Things. But, you know, I had a conversation with Kyle Dawson, the Wild Things broadcaster, the last time we saw them, and I said, this is probably the scariest team I've ever seen that I'm not scared of at all. And whatever that means in the case of the Washington Wild Things, they've got a loaded roster. I mean, this is really the same core that won 67 games last year. And they've brought in rookies along the way. We saw the Wild Things in late July, and they were just starting to incorporate some of those rookies into the lineup. Guys like Ben Watson and Cole Fowler, who have become mainstays in the Washington lineup since then. But the veterans in that lineup as well are pretty impressive. They've got a veteran pitching staff. You know, Jordan DiValerio and Zach Kirby have been a little more up and down than they were last year, but on the right day, they're still as good as anybody in the league. And Kobe Foster has always been one of the best in the league on any day, really. So the Wild Things have a lot of talent and a lot of ability. And like I said, I'm maybe a little biased opposed to them when I look at them because we just didn't see them at their best. For whatever reason, when the Thunderbolts played the Wild Things, they were not playing their best baseball of the season at those moments. But they're playing really good baseball right now over the last couple of weeks. I think a lot of people, myself included, kind of left them for dead in that Central Division race, and they stormed back and overtook Lake Erie. And the Wild Things are a team that tends to bring it in the postseason. I know they haven't had the most success in the championship series, but they sure get there a lot. So it's not a team that I would want to see in postseason baseball. Tom Vaith has done a great job in those early rounds the last couple of years. Gateway is another team that they're tough to read in some ways because of the ballpark they play in. You know, their offensive numbers are so inflated that we talk about all the time, but their pitching numbers are inflated as well. So on paper, you might look at their rotation and say, I don't know who that go-to guy is going to be for the Grizzlies in the playoffs, but I think some of the numbers are inflated because of where they play, and I think they do have some pretty strong arms in that rotation. Lucas Weinbergs has been really good. I think Xander Lovin, who we saw as a reliever early in the year, has been pretty solid since he's moved into the rotation. I know Zach Treese, the veteran, has struggled a little bit lately, but that's a guy I've seen look absolutely outstanding at times this year. And you know, there's no substitute for experience when you get to this time of year as well, and he's certainly got that. And Gateway can hit. You know, it is inflated a little bit by playing in Sauget, but they've got some serious hitters on that team, whether we're talking about DJ Stewart or Gabe Holt or Mark Schallenberger. I mean, they've got some guys who get on base like crazy, and they do hit the ball out of the park as well. So I know that when it comes to Washington and Gateway, they've both had their moments over the last couple of months where it felt like they were taking a step back, but both teams have played well down the stretch, certainly over the last week or so. And so I would consider that a total toss-up of a series. I'm really excited to see how it goes.
Terry, do you find that Washington, like they've been to 2 out of the last 5 finals? Do you think they're kind of using some of that motivation and having a pennant chase come right down to the final weekend as a way to say, okay, this is the year that we're finally going to get it over the hump? Because some of the guys on that main core were on that first championship bound team in 2021.
Yeah, I think there's a chip on their shoulders for sure. And I think that's a big part of the reason. And I don't know these guys personally, but I think that's a big part of the reason in a lot of cases that guys come back. And I've been around the league long enough to see a lot of different teams that bring talent back from year to year. And sometimes you bring a star player back and the motivation's just not there anymore. And I don't think that's the case with Washington. I think because of specifically the way that last season ended, but also, as you mentioned, they do still have some guys from the 2021 season as well that lost in the championship series to Schaumburg. I think there's a real chip on their shoulder. I think there's a feeling of unfinished business in Washington. I mean, it's ridiculous that this team hasn't won a championship over the last 5 years. You know, it's ridiculous they haven't won a championship going back further than that as well. I mean, in 2018, they had one of the best teams in the league and fell in the championship series to Joliet. So, I mean, it feels like every couple of years they're there. They keep reloading, but they keep adding to the core that they've got there. And they're always right there near the top. They had a down year in 2023, and I think they finished something like 47 and 49. That was their down year, 2 games below 500. So these are veteran guys who know how to perform this time of year, and I 100% think that there's extra motivation there based on the way last season ended.
In the Midwest Conference, the Gateway Grizzlies host the Washington Wild Things at Arsenal BG Ballpark in Sauget, Illinois, starting at 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday. The series moves all the way to EQT Park in Washington, PA for a 7:05 start on Friday, and if necessary, another 7:05 start on Saturday evening. All right, gentlemen, you know, as I've said many times on many broadcasts, I have no favorites, and I can't even begin to imagine me taking a position on what might happen during the playoffs. I love great dramatic baseball. I love good matchups. I love to see 2 teams in each series performing at their absolute pinnacle. But you guys can have favorites. And so I'm going to put you on the spot right now, starting with Terry.
Well, you said I'm allowed to have favorites. So my favorite is the Thunderbolts. I don't think they're going to do it this year. I don't think this year's the year, maybe next year. I do think it's in a lot of ways a toss-up, and a 4-way toss-up in the Midwest Conference, because any one of these teams could beat anybody else. I think it's so even. It's going to be a really interesting playoff. But I'm going to give you a very boring answer for if I had to handicap this and pick who should the favorite be. It's the team that's got the best record, the Schaumburg Boomers. And, you know, Quebec has won 3 straight championships, so Quebec is the gold standard at this point. Well, if you look back 3 years, the gold standard was Schaumburg. This team wins in the playoffs. They never lost a postseason series the first 10 years of their franchise's existence. They won 4 championships in an 8-season stretch, and they have the best record in the league this year. So I'm not going to bet against Jamie Bennett, and I'm not going to bet against the team that's got Anthony Calarco in the middle of the lineup.
Davide Disipio, same thing. Tell us, maybe in your own way, who do you think will come out on top in the Frontier League playoffs in 2025?
So I can tell you who's going to. My prediction. I obviously haven't seen one of these teams this season with my schedule aligning with Ottawa, but unfortunately, the one team that I thought was going to knock the defending champions out are not in the dance this year. And I don't want to be clickbait here, but in my own way, this is my championship finals preview. Don't use it as clickbait, please. I'm not trying to lead anybody on, but this is my finals pick.
That does it for the 2025 playoff preview show, round 1, here on HTN. Join us for every minute of playoff action on FrontierLeagueTV.com, powered by the Home Team Network. There's great games to come. We hope you stay tuned and look around the league to see the great product that the Frontier League brings to the field every night. Thanks for joining us, everybody.